Welcome back to the Always Thinking Mindset channel, where we give you positive vibes and simple rules to achieve your goals. Now, in today's video, we're going to discuss on how to charge rents for your rental property. Now, before we begin, if you like this video, if you get value from this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm. Don't worry, you don't have to be subscribed. I'm not going to charge you for rents or anything like that. But if you love this channel, which I think you do, you already know what to do. So let's go ahead and begin today's video. Charging rents. Everybody loves to charge stuff, but it's a service, right? Being in real estate and owning property, you as a landlord have to provide a service for the tenant. What does this mean? This means that they have an obligation to pay rent, and you have an obligation to maintain that house health and safety of the tenant, and not only that, your building. So in the first rule, like I said, we always have to discuss on how to charge rents, and it depends on a various of factors. But the first rule hits on location. Yes, what does this mean? This means that you cannot charge uh, the same amount of rents that are in a different area. Obviously, the lower end of the city is going to be different from a higher end or upscale of a city. So everything depends on location. There's plenty of apps, plenty of things online that can help you understand what's comps, right? Comparables within your area. They usually do a mile radius, and they also include other factors. So that means that if you own a one bedroom, one bath, it's going to be the charging the rents is going to be different from a three bedroom, two bath, right? Because now you can fit more people in there. It's just a bigger square footage, but location matters because in the end, I cannot ask for these ridiculous amounts of rents in sort of a lower end of the city because that's just the clientele. And I always say, in the end, what you charge is what your tenants are going to be. So, yes, it's up to you as a landlord to come up with that amount. And there's usually guidelines and apps and so many things out there that can help you with that. But you got to understand that like location does matter because, in the city, if you live within the city, you're going to have way more tenants because they're got to go to work rather than living in the outskirts of the city. Also, suburban neighborhood versus a rural neighborhood. There's so many factors that go into charging rents for your rental property. And that's what I'm dealing with right now. So it's not that I can't get a tenant in, it's for me, it's the right tenant, right? Because as soon as I get somebody in there, it's harder to get them out if something doesn't go well. But that's the part of the process, the hunting process. There's a lot of other factors such as background, credit score, stuff like that. You should be on the lookout. But location is something you have to get a visual of how much to charge for your property because, and also, I don't even know if Bitcoin is allowed, but I don't accept Bitcoin. Just the manner of the means of the neighborhood, right? Because if you're in a safe environment with a lot of schools, that's going to differentiate from a college town where a lot of college kids go to, right? And those are factors you have to understand of charging rents. But do your research, do your due diligence, do comparables. You can also just a tip is get on any kind of app, Zillow, Redfin, whatever location. Click on the rents, and you'll see a lot of people in that area, in the demographic area, of how much rents are going for, and you can start doing your basic comparables there, right? Because let's say you have a three bedroom, two bath. Now you can compare others within that area of what they're going for because in the end, the tenant's trying to make the best selection. Now, if you live in a private, exclusion subdivision with a lot of, renovations in your house, then the charging of rents are different. But other than that, try to stick to the location of how much you think you can charge for rents. Now, my second rule, you have to understand what it is, which is repairs, maintenance, and everything in between. What does this mean? You have to charge rents in order to understand that repairs are going to be needed, maintenance is going to be needed, taxes, insurance. You got to factor in all that. So you can't charge the rents that are not going to make up for that or help out with that because I always tell tenants, they're like, I'm paying you this money, I'm paying you this money. But I always say, well, you're not paying for property tax, you're not paying for maintenance, you're not paying for repair, you're not paying for the big headaches, you're paying for peace of mind. So it's a lot that goes in the back end. And this is where you have to charge your rents right. Because, like I said, if you charge them too high, obviously, people are just going to be inquire about them. But if you charge it too low, yeah, you're going to get the tenant in there. Don't worry. But the class of tenant is different. But not only that, now your rents are low and you have to keep up with, repair, maintenance, taxes, insurance, just everything in between to make sure the numbers you got to make sure the numbers align, right? You have to have more profit than negative, right? You don't want to be negative cash flow. You want to stay on the positive cash flow. And that's where a lot of landlords, real estate investors get in trouble is that they end up taking anybody's rents and they don't understand. It's a math equation. You have to make more in the door or charging the tenants for that. So, it's an offset deal. It has to be one of those things of give and take, but that is a very important topic where repair, maintenance, everything in between, you as a landlord have to inquire about that and make sure you have the right tenant. Because in the end, if they end up breaking the contract, taking you to court, suing you, you have to make sure that those rents are worth it. Because I always tell everybody, getting the wrong tenant in there, it'll cost you more money than anything, and it ends up being a headache, pain in the butt. But not only that, it will drain your wallet, right? Even in litigation. And then my last rule has to do with more of, the tenant itself, the back screening, stuff like that. But just to hit on charging rents, you got to understand that, there's a lot of selection out there. The pool, sometimes it depends on a single family home or a commercial property, but you have to play the field because the tenants are, they're trying to fill you out. So they're trying to see whether you're going to be a responsible landlord, and then you as a landlord trying to see if the tenant is a responsible tenant, right? Their history, whether they made rents on time, stuff like that. So when you charge rents, it's more than just charging them, right? You're studying them, you're understanding their behavior, their traits, whether they'll be a good fit for your property, because in the end, it's your property and nobody will take care of it as much as you. And just like everything else, it takes patience, time. I'm going through it right now, and I can tell you it's still premature. But on top of that, I want the right tenant in my property. I hate to have the tenant from hell. Not only that, animals, you got to understand, whether you want to charge a fee for animal, uh, whether you say no animals. But on top of that, it's your property. You get to control who you want in there and whether you allow certain things. So make sure your lease agreements are up to date. Those are big deals that you have to understand when being a landlord. So we got location, we got repair and maintenance, and then not only that, you have to charge what I call the last rule is just tenant tenant behavior, because in the end you get what you pay for, right? If you end up lowering the rents, you're going to get a certain classification of tenants rather than somebody who's willing to pay the premium price. And it's just like everything else. I always say, imagine buying a Kia versus a Mercedes Benz. You're going to have two different pricings, but not only that, two different comfort zones there. And whether you do charge a premium for your rental, it's up to you, a landlord, whether someone's willing to pay. Now, you can't be absurd and end up charging these crazy prices where no one's not even interested. But in the end, the, the way you charge rental properties is supposed to be demographics. The headaches are going to come, repair and maintenance. And I say this because I've been through it. My rentals have, I've learned so much through it. I've lost money, I've gained money, I'm in between, I break off even. But these are lessons they don't teach you because you have to get in the water of real estate, owning rental property, being the landlord, and just doing everything in between. So that ends today's video. And if you took value from today's video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I think you did. Give it a thumbs up. Don't worry, you don't have to be subscribed. I'm not going to go after you. At the same time, if you love this channel, which I think you do, go ahead and check out my other videos. I speak on everything from real estate, personal finance, you name it. Just browse through it, just like everything else. But until next time, folks, we will speak soon.